So obviously the summer of 2016, the famous Kevin Durant chase, after the 3-1 collapse, KD is being courted by every contender in the NBA. LeBron's calling him. The Celtics send out the red carpet. They have Tom Brady call him. Everyone pulls out all the stops, and then we have the famous meeting, the Hamptons 5 meeting, where the Warriors come out, Curry, Draymond, Iguodala, Clay, and they convince him to ultimately choose the Warriors. But I think what was the really interesting alternative here is he was reportedly really close to choosing Boston instead. And I feel like that in itself, obviously, the Warriors would have still been a power in the West. But what's really important is that the overall impact on Kevin Durant's career and perhaps his mental health is like his own state of mind, right? Because he goes from the Warriors, where he's doesn't have his own team, he's still secondary to Steph in the fans' minds, blah blah blah. He gets his own team in Boston. He's the alpha dog, right? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are not challenging this guy for control of the team, and you wonder, like, would KD actually be happy there? And perhaps, like, does he retire a Celtic? And yeah. Any thoughts on that one? I know you didn't have this one as your number 2, but
Yeah. I think KD as his own category in general is interesting to explore. It's hard. He's such a misery, online at least. It's hard to see him happy. I think he likes to play it off, and fan engagement is fun and all, and maybe to some degree he just lives for that kind of that energy, so to speak. He admitted to the Warriors losing in the finals being very much easier on his decision before. I think Jerry West ended up being the call that kind of eased his conscience a little bit, because Jerry West said, "Look, man, I lost in the finals a million times, and if I could take it all back, I'd find a way to win every one of those goddamn series." So
and you had this one ranked, right? But not where did you have this one ranked for yourself?
I had this one ranked, I think, at number 5, just because there were so many other things I wanted to explore. I think that what made this interesting is Klay Thompson's Game 6. This, I thought we were done. Like, at the time, like, I was pulling my hair out. I was like, my God, this beautiful season is over. I hate Kevin Durant. I was so scared of playing him. I actually wanted to play San Antonio because I was so mortified of Kevin Durant that season. So, Game 6, Klay happens, overcome a 3-1 lead, blow a 3-1 lead, and that's what made it possible. So I think your Boston scenario is more so likely to happen if the Warriors win the finals. I think that makes it a little more, that increases the percentage of it happening, because then, I mean, the way this is discussed is just the most exhausted conversation on NBA Twitter, just taking the easy path and win a real ring. It's disgusting,
Hashtag rings, all that. Yeah.
All that, rings with a Z at the end and all caps. Yeah, all that shit. But the Warriors winning is a more interesting caveat, because if they do win, like you said, there's a chance he still shamelessly goes, "I'm still going there. I don't give a damn what anybody thinks." But I remember that kind of Kevin Durant sweepstakes. There was like someone leaked that he was blown away by the Clippers.
Yeah.
Denying that.
The owner, Steve Ballmer, was reportedly in tears, painting the vision of taking over LA with KD by his side. A lot of great memes from that one. But yeah, I mean, it's what's really interesting. I mean, other than the impact on the Warriors, I think it shifts the balance of power in the East, right? I mean, you still have obviously LeBron and the Cavs. You have the Sixers are kind of middling at this point. Giannis is up and coming. So LeBron, for the most part, has an unimpeded path to the finals every year after that, because there's no one really in the East to challenge him. So what happens if, instead of playing Jalen, Jason, and Marcus Smart, he's playing Jalen, Jason, and Kevin Durant? Do we get the Cavs Warriors, the series of the four straight finals? So
yeah, he does. It's basically LeBron joins the East again, right? Someone who's his equal kind of default. It's like the Warriors Cavs era was like, there's a baby coming and everyone knows the name of that baby and what gender that baby is and everything. And the name of that baby was Warriors Cavs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? It was
Everyone they tried to deny it. You had the hipsters talking about Utah this, and just it was there was the sense of inevitability, and people tried to push back against it, and it wasn't happening.
It would have been beautiful schematically. He'd spoken of what Brad Stevens' schemes defensively were like against him. It was quite the compliment to what Brad Stevens did when defensively scheming against Kevin Durant. And he liked that when they showed him in the meetings, like, here's what we would do if you were here. Jay Crowder famously said, we showed him everything, which is very naive of him to say. But nonetheless, I think that they would have absolutely been a pain in the ass for the Cavs. They might have LeBron might have done some other shifts. Maybe Kawhi Leonard doesn't go to, Kawhi Leonard was traded to Toronto, but maybe that isn't as clear cut. The East definitely would have been the more dominant conference. All it takes is one player to make the East look like a complete, nightmare for everybody else. So I think that KD choosing Boston was also something that I remember thinking about this once upon a time, and the only other shameless choice he would have made is joining Cleveland. But Boston, I think, is the highest likelihood of happening.
Yeah, I mean, he said after the decision, I mean, several months later, I think, that he was not going to join the winning team. Basically, he wasn't going to be, obviously it's one thing that the Warriors beat the Thunder, but to join the winning team was like, all right, like that's a little too much for him, at least in his mind. Even though he probably would have faced the same criticism either way, really. So, do you think he's still a Boston Celtic if he makes that decision? It's 5 years out. Is he still there? Does he retire a Celtic?
No, I don't think so. He seems to be one of these players that doesn't really have a loyalty to a specific team. I mean, once upon a time, maybe you think that, right? But we've kind of gotten to know him a little bit. He quietly signed his first extension on a napkin or something. He didn't announce it. It was like a no-brainer in Oklahoma City. But as we've gotten to know him and how frustrating the idea of legacy is, if he doesn't win a championship in Boston, for the sake of example, he's absolutely out of there, right? So either way, whether they win or not, I think he leaves.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And if he does win a championship there, that's when I think he sticks around for that legacy reason, because you play for one of the prestige franchises, you become one of those names in the rafters, and that becomes, he's definitely discussed in a much different light by us, peasants on social media. So yeah, it's a major shift there.
Yeah, it's interesting because he won here and he still left and didn't want to stick around. So he's just such a complicated character. But you'd like to think, without all of the toxicity that involved his moving here to the Bay Area, that he'd at least give the Celtics one extension after winning a championship.
Absolutely.